Okay, today we're going to make a very simple marinara sauce. We'll start with 100% California olive oil. Then we have garlic. We have some whole tomatoes, 100% California and organic, as well as organic tomato paste. We use some red wine. We'll use some fresh basil, and we'll use some organic oregano. First, we'll start with our garlic. An easy way to peel the garlic out of the paper or out of the skin is to give it a twist just like that, and it will easily come free. Let me show you that one more time. You just give it a twist, and it will come out. You don't need any fancy anything. That's it. Or another way that you can do it is by pressing it down, just like this. It does the exact same thing. Then you twist a little bit, and the garlic clove comes out of the paper. So let me get these peeled, and we'll come back. All right, now that we have our garlic peeled, what we're going to do is we're going to cut it up into chunks. Now this is an American Italian style marinara, and so consequently we're going to use a little bit more garlic than the average marinara uses, especially with the Italian. The Italian style is by using a lot less. The true Italian marinara, that is. So what we'll do is we cut up the garlic into smaller chunks just like this, but they are chunks, because what's going to end up happening is when they cook down, they're going to become very, very soft and extremely delicious to eat once you get one in your if you get one in your serving, which you probably will, because there's enough garlic here to choke a horse essentially. But that's the way that I like this particular iteration of marinara. So we have, I don't know, about 5 or 6 cloves chopped up like that. You don't have to be exactly precise, but we trim them off and then cut them into rather large chunks like this. And now it's time to go to the stove. All right, here we are. Turn on the flame, give it a little bit of heat, and now we're going to add our olive oil, and we're going to be rather generous with the olive oil. Going to coat the bottom of the pan here, or the sauce pot as it were. And that's about enough. We're going to add our garlic in. And we're going to let that cook very, very slowly until the garlic just browns. All right, we actually do want to brown the garlic in this iteration. And so what I like to do, as I do in some other recipes that you may see me with the garlic, is to put them like this on the flame and let them essentially deep fry in the olive oil. Now you have to be very careful if you're going to leave this alone. This is going to take a little while, but you also have to be very careful of the handle right here. Now I'm used to doing all of this stuff, so for me it's not such a big deal, but you have to be extremely careful in this case. I like to put a bowl or a colander right behind it, which keeps it essentially like this. Okay? So it's going to slowly come up to temperature and brown. And as you can see right here, I put it on the lip of a bowl. But you must be very, very careful. That's all I'm going to say. Back in a few minutes when this is brown. Now, as you can see, the garlic is starting to slowly brown. Turn the heat up just a little bit. And we're going to move them around just like that so they get evenly coated. In the meantime, I've taken the tomatoes out of the can, the peeled whole tomatoes, and I've hand crushed them. And so what we're going to do is when these just get a little bit more brown, they're just at the point where they're going to get brown, we will arrest that cooking by adding the tomatoes in. So there we go. They're just nicely brown without burning. And we'll now arrest the cooking by putting the tomatoes in. And we want to get everything out of here. So here we go. And now we're going to let it come up to temperature by giving it a little stir as well. And you can see that there's still some chunks of tomato, but those will break down as the sauce cooks over the next couple of hours. We'll be back. Okay, our marinara sauce is slowly coming up to temperature. And what we're going to do here now is add our tomato paste. We're going to use the entire can, believe it or not. This was taught to me by an old Italian actor by the name of Tony Giorgio. This is exactly how he made his marinara sauce. The only thing that we're going to do differently here is we are going to use fresh basil as opposed to dried basil, which is what he used. Now, the reason why he used dried basil is because back east during the winter time, it was almost impossible to get fresh basil. And so consequently, everybody began using dried basil, and it has its own flavor, but I actually prefer to use fresh basil if it's available because it gives it a different flavor. And we can use a little bit more, and it looks nice inside too, rather than the little specks. So what we're going to do is mix this up, and it's going to become extremely thick. All right? But what we'll do is we're going to thin it down, not only with a little bit of water that I will add into the tomato paste can to get as much of that tomato paste out of there and utilize it as possible. We're also going to thin it down with our red wine. So it doesn't just bloom, 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 bubble like that. Now you can use any red wine that you want, provided you are able to drink the wine yourself. If it's not wine that you are ready to drink on your own, then I wouldn't use it at all. All right? I'm not going to tell you the brand of wine I use. Of course, this is not an endorsement for any particular type of wine, but suffice to say that I live in California. I'm from California, and so consequently, we wouldn't think of using anything but California wine. California wine has beat out some of the best French wines. Not all of them, but some of them. Now, in this case, we also are going to add a little bit of oregano and a pinch of red pepper, just like that. Just a tiny bit to give it a little bit of zing. And then some oregano. I add about a teaspoon of oregano. That should be enough. And we'll give it a little bit of a mix, just like this. And we're also going to add in fresh basil. Now this basil will also give it a little bit of water. It will thin it down because basil is made up a lot. Most of basil is water. And so consequently we've washed this. So there's water on the leaves, and then as the leaves break down, they will also lend that water into the sauce. And that's basically it. All we have to do now is wait till this comes up to a simmer and let it bubble away for the next couple of hours to sweeten it up. The key to making a really tasty marinara sauce is not to rush the cooking. It needs to slowly bubble away. You can see it's coming to temperature now. As soon as it does come up to a boil, essentially, what we're going to do is turn down the heat and let it simmer. Now you can put it on another burner in the back while you prepare whatever it is you're going to prepare. This is an excellent sauce to eat with rigatoni. It's a vegetarian, and many times my friend Tony and I would make this and a salad a meal and not have any meat at all. So if you're a vegetarian, even if you're a vegan, this would work for you as well. All right? Because the rigatoni, if it's dried, if it only has water and semolina, fits into a vegan lifestyle as well. So there we go. Come nicely. And yeah, you see a little bit of a stem there, as I do. That's not a big deal. That's going to break down. It's all natural. It's part of it, so that's fine. So let this come up to temperature, and then we're gonna turn it down and occasionally come back and give it a nice stir. If it gets too thick, like I still think it's a little bit too thick, we're going to add some water to it. We're going to add water until the viscosity is not so thick. I'm going to break it down a little bit. That's more like it. So I can't tell you exactly the amount of, for example, water that we're going to add in here, but you add water until it's kind of a soupy sauce, just like this, maybe just a tiny bit more. And then as we let it cook, it will evaporate. And when it comes down and becomes somewhat more viscous, like you saw in the beginning, then the sauce is going to be ready. In the meantime, you have to watch out that it doesn't burn, okay? Because some of those tomato solids will sink to the bottom, and it could potentially burn. So be careful. So now we see that the marinara sauce has come to a boil, and now what we're going to do is turn it down very low and just let it simmer away. And we will come back once that's done. And occasionally you need to stir it. All right? So very, very low to just slowly bubble away. In fact, that's even too much. We're going to lower the heat down, and we'll come back when it's done. Now you can see that we have lowered the heat, and now this sauce is at a simmer. You can see it slowly bubbling away. That's exactly what we want. I'll come back. We'll adjust the seasoning with some salt and correct everything when we get down to a viscosity that is very, very thick, but not too thick, but what we want in a marinara sauce. So remember, the key here is patience with the sauce. You can't rush it, otherwise it's not going to taste good. Back when it's ready. And just to check on our marinara, you can see it's slowly bubbling away. I'm going to come by every once in a while and give it a little bit of a stir. just to make sure that nothing is sticking to the bottom, and of course nothing is. And just let it bubble away peacefully like that. Beautiful. So how sweet it is. We have our marinara cooking, and it has been going for about 4 hours now, and it is literally perfect. Just bubbling away little by little by little. That's exactly what you want. Now, remember I told you I didn't add any salt into this, and that's done on purpose because it's going to be used for a variety of different applications. We don't want to oversalt it. So for example, we will use this as a base for our chicken parmesan, and we can also use it as a rigatoni marinara. Now, if we use it for rigatoni marinara, what's going to end up happening is we're going to finish the pasta within this sauce, and we're going to be using the salt water that's coming from the pasta water inside of the skillet when we finish the pasta. And so consequently, if we salt this now and it reduces down and then we add salt water to it, what's going to happen? It's going to end up being too salty. So I would rather not do that. I'd rather not salt it now and salt it per application. All right? So that's the reason why. Also, I don't like using black pepper in a lot of things. Black pepper doesn't bring out any flavor like salt. It's a seasoning in and of itself. And so consequently, I learned that from Chef Thomas Keller, America's greatest chef, believe it or not. He never uses pepper in anything until after to actually give it seasoning. The only thing that he does use is salt on a regular basis. So you can take it from the best chef in the country, America's greatest chef. You can take that to the bank. So here we go. That's our marinara sauce. It's ready.